Hi, everybody. Good morning or happy noon, wherever you are. Eva here for our Freedom Chats. So welcome to, if you're new to the group, welcome to Sovereign Entrepreneurs Unite. This is for all the freedom lovers here who are interested in entrepreneurial freedom and, more importantly, freedom from our own inner BS. And people who realize that we are both on an entrepreneurial journey and spiritual journey, and we use business as the medicine, meaning that everything that shows up in our business is a tool for our personal healing and transformation, so we can step into our next level as a business owner. We can expand into the capacity to hold space for more clients, cause more transformation in the world, and build a company that is truly making a difference in the world. So welcome. If you're watching the replay, put hashtag replay in the chat. If you're here, please say hi in the chat. Sometimes I unfortunately cannot know who's watching until you click that link above, because StreamYard doesn't let me see names for some reason. I'm using this tool called StreamYard, which is streaming into my YouTube channels as well as here. So today I want to talk about the 5 mental jail archetypes that keep us from being free in our mind to run our business, and keep us from stepping into the 6 superpowers that I teach. So before we go there, I want to talk about something called the split. I learned this concept when I first went to Rhythmia, which is where I did some of the healing retreats. I participated and I didn't run them. I participated as a participant in some of the healing retreats last week. And I want to share this with you because it all made so much sense to me. When we come here, we incarnate here. We are very much inner soul, inner spirit. I see this with my 2-year-old daughter. We're the shiny bright light. We're very much we're very fluid between our emotions, right? We're just expressing everything. We're happy and we're sad and we're happy again, and we're just sort of content that way. And then something happens in our life, and whether it's micro trauma or actual, deep trauma, we realize that this free way, this way of existing in the world is not necessarily safe, right? Because we're not getting the love that we need. And we start the splitting process, right? And the way they taught it there is that there's just one split, which I don't think is that true at all. I think we go through multiple splits where it's sort of like an erosion of the soul, where we build new protective identities and protective layers that, end up being more and more constricting to us, right? And one way to describe them, the different layers, is through the archetypes, and through understanding them and recognizing them in ourselves, and letting those things go and healing through them, through our heart, and through dissolving the emotions that are attached to the archetype, we open ourselves to more sort of direct access to our soul. And that in your business, to make this more applicable and more practical for you guys, that means you have more guidance from your higher self. You get more guidance, when you're creating content, when you're creating ideas, you have more clear decisions that you can make, right? And this is why I talk about business being a spiritual journey, because you can build a business 2 ways, right? You can just build it from your head, from your own, thinking mind. And it's probably going to look like copying what everybody else is doing, learning from others and translating it in some of your own language and whatever, and building some of your own methodology, but it's going to be based on the teachings of others, right? And many of us have done that. That's kind of like, I used to be the master translator, right? And to an extent, I still take the things that I learned from other people absolutely and translate it in my business, right? But more and more, as I did this healing work, I started getting in so much inspiration and so much connections from what I was learning. And it's just so much more fun to be creating your business, like, from this space when you're just downloading ideas and receiving inspiration, right? So this is super important in finding your own voice too, right? Because as you're healing through these things that hold you back from recognizing your own voice, it just becomes a magical journey. So super important, and as a business coach, I get a little bit, I talk a lot about mindset and the spiritual journey here, but recognize that part of the business journey isn't just doing the healing, it's really doing both. It's really like having a really solid business strategy, right? Really understanding what is going to drive and build a business, and having your lead generation system in place, and lead nurture and lead conversion, right? And having a really solid body of work and methodology and things like that. Having, start building a team that is going to help you carry there, and so on and so forth. And then doing this inner work, right? That leads to the 6 superpowers. And more about that, if you guys haven't attended the 90-minute webinar that I do, where I go deeper into this stuff, then tonight we have one at 7:23 Costa Rica time, which I think is 9:23 Eastern, 6:23 Pacific time. So you can join us. There is another event in this group, and there's an invite, and you need to register and all that stuff. So, back to the split, right? So you have this split, or erosion, or multiple splits. And you kind of live your life just kind of like padding on more of those layers, more of those splits. And we get more and more constricted until, we come to an event in our life when it's just like, wow, I cannot live any longer like this. For a lot of people, it's divorce, where they've really hit like, wow, like what have I been doing? And they realize they have not really been pursuing their dreams and goals. And they realize that it's time to start the coming back home process, right? So now, to these archetypes that hi, Milfred, so good to see you here. Thank you so much for saying hi. So the archetypes, right? So you have the lower archetypes and the higher archetypes. You could call them the bad or the destructive archetypes, and the productive archetypes, right? So I haven't, in my years of research, I haven't done too much work on the higher archetypes. This is more, if you guys are familiar with Carolyn Myss, I just read her book this past week and I loved it. And she talks about the more productive ones, right? The entrepreneur, the spiritual seeker, the queen, and blah, 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 blah. So that's not what I'm talking about here. I have done a lot of research over the past years on the lower level archetypes, the ones that are actually destructive, or at least, unprotective, and they're part of our evolution. They are universal. What I'm about to talk about is not a reason to feel bad about yourself. These are so universal to every single one of us. Every single one of us has to go through it and recognize those archetypes in us, because they're sort of in the collective. They're kind of in the air, and just pick up on them and go with the energy of it. So the first one, and you guys are going to hate this one, is the victim. Right? Because we say, why are we going to hate it? Because we're entrepreneurs. We're not victimized by anything. We're empowered. We're up. We're just in charge of our life, and that's all good. But the victim tends to show up in parts of our business where we go from being the manifester, being in charge and creating and manifesting, to being at the effect of something. Right? So how do you know you're in a victim zone? Where you are relying or telling yourself the outside is the determinant of my success, right? What does that look like? When you're saying, oh, my coach didn't give me the advice that I needed, or the market is doing this, or the Facebook ads cost per lead went too high, or my VA quit and didn't do the work, or something outside of ourselves, including, by the way, our feelings. Oh, I'm not feeling like it, right? Oh, I've not been inspired, or something like that. That's when you are in a victim zone about your own emotional states, and you're not recognizing that you are the creator and the manifester in your internal states as well, right? So there's different types of victims that we go into, and one of them is the victim of our business circumstance, right? It's that when something goes wrong and we go, oh, it's out there, it's the market or something like that. And we don't recognize that business is our medicine and the business is doing exactly what we need to transcend whatever it is showing to us so that we can expand to the next level, right? By the way, I want to talk about failure in business for a second because this is so important. And I want you to have this mindset shift. As somebody who has built 7-figure business in about 15 months, as a mother to my infant, as a single mom, right? Like that was like a week and a half before she was born to about a month after she turned 1, something like that, right? Or 2 months after about a month after she turned 1, right? So that was our hyper growth. What was I going to say about this? I lost my train of thought, you guys. Where did my train of thought go? I was going to say something about that. Well, that's interesting. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is so sorry about that, guys. So on that journey to 7 figures, I failed literally, like we fail as a team too, you know, because it wasn't just me. Like we were failing probably 80% of the time. Okay. And the difference between people who kind of make it to a certain level and people who don't, one of the differences is not understanding failure being so common, like every single day, you know. It's literally like all the time, you know, you have a webinar, you're expecting 50 participants and you get 5, you know, it happens more often than you think, you know, or you get a bunch of consults in a row and nobody's wanting to come to you, nobody's converting. And you know, you have a launch where you invest a lot into ads and this and that, and it just goes completely crapshoot. It happens all the time, like all the time, right? So with business failure, you can take it as a disappointment and get discouraged. And so many times people just shut down and then not move forward, or they go to throw the next spaghetti on the wall, or you can treat it as this. It's always a gift. It's not about what's happening in your business. It's about what's bringing up, what it's bringing up for you. Like any kind of rejection, any kind of not hitting your goals, any kind of failure. What is this bringing up for you? You don't want to look like a failure on camera. You don't want to look like a failure in front of your clients because you don't even know how to launch. Is it that, you know, you don't want people to see you as unsuccessful? Is it that you cannot handle the sheer heartbreak of the disappointment and failing over and over and over, right? Whatever it is, that is the thing that needs to be healed so that you can sort of expand to the next level of your leadership, right? So it's always a learning process if you let it, if you go inward, if you have the courage to go inward and listen to those feelings and feel into it and kind of sense what's really going on, right? So another way victim shows up, one of the members of this group posted something on her wall, which I found incredibly fascinating. And that is this phenomenon of looking for the magic bullet in business. And I see this, I'm deeply related to that. I deeply related to this because I have done this so many times, where we're relying on one thing out there or somebody out there, and that is the person who is going to finally help us make that break in our business. That is the piece that we have been missing, right? And I see this with some of the people that wanted to work with us, and it was like the Hail Mary pass. Oh, this is going to be the thing that is going to save me, right? It happens with a lot of other business coaches. Where we see like, oh, that is the methodology, that is the blueprint that is going to save me. It's going to be, if I just attend all their workshops, if I just come to every live event, that is the thing that is going to save me, right? And we kind of have a policy to not bring on clients where they think it's like the Hail Mary pass, and they don't understand that business is, wow, like it's like, number one, we're so responsible for it, but it's also a long-term commitment. It's a commitment to the entrepreneur journey, right? It happened to me several times with hiring salespeople in my company. You know, sales weren't going. If I just hire the perfect salesperson who knows how to close well, then, you know, that is going to be the breakthrough in my business. With some people, it's with their VA. They really hate doing lead generation. They really don't like messaging people, inviting them to their events, or they really don't like running ads or whatever it is. They really don't like doing content. And they're like, if I just get the perfect VA, then everything is going to be better. And oftentimes it is just not, because the universe is showing us you're gonna have to take your power back, own it, transmute all the resistance to that one activity you really don't want to do, right? Because we all have that thing we really don't want to do. Whether it's doing sales calls, whether it's doing lead gen, whether it's doing outreach, whether it's following up with people, whether it's going live on our personal page, which, oh my God, I'm resisting so much. I will admit to you, for the past 2 years, just resisting. It's always like, what if my high school classmate is going to watch? They're going to think, oh my God, she has put on so much weight, whatever. There's like mental chatter that goes on about it. But we have, all of us have that one thing that we are resisting in our business. We can't just get the person who's going to save us from it, then it's going to turn out well, and it doesn't, right? That's when we go into a victim zone. So be super, super, super careful of that, because nobody's coming to save you, right? And every time you tell yourself, oh, it's this thing or that thing that caused my failure, be super careful, because it's not what's happening out there at all, ever. It's always in here. We're completely in charge of our results, let alone, the political situation or depression or whatever, whatever goes on with the economy. Just FYI, we 200x'd our revenue in 2020, right? It has nothing to do with the circumstances out there. But the thing I did is, it was really funny. In March, I turned off the news, and I never turned it back on. I can tell you, I told my clients, I was so dumb during COVID. I didn't even know what the symptoms were. And I refused to know. I literally, we're talking to my best friend on the phone. Just don't tell me what the symptoms are. I don't want to know, because I don't want to catch it. I don't want to be thinking about the symptoms. I literally shut off the news in March 2020, because the first time I turned it on, and there was this coronavirus thing coming from China, it was like there was this fear that was in the air. You could feel it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to run my business through this. Like, what if, the economy goes to hell and all these things? And I just wow, I realized, Lexi was barely a month. Lexi was born in February 2020, my daughter. And I realized there is no way that I was going to build $1 million business and raise an infant successfully if I were to watch the news. So if you know that the media is affecting you, don't turn it on. Sometimes, and I will admit, I get wrapped up a little bit in the alternative media, because I just don't watch the mainstream at all these days, because unless I really want to know what the world is freaking out about these days. But, even the alternative media, we have to be discerning, because it gets a little, we have to know, is this lifting me up? Or is this making me more worried? And we cannot go down to fear. When you're on a mission to build your business, especially now, right, in this political environment where we all could use more love, more positivity, it's not to not have compassion with what's going on, right? You can have compassion, but you can also protect yourself from the constant chatter about this, the way of the emotion, because if the world needs anything right now, it's for us to really stand for transformation, to do our inner healing, and then deliver that healing to our clients as well. So anyway, that was a little bit of a sidetrack. So the victim, we covered the victim. So just take a mental note to yourself and notice where you are not manifesting in your business, where you are telling yourself, I have to wait for this, or I need to wait to get enough clarity about this, or, I have to find the right coach, or I need the right VA, or I need the right whatever, and just start manifesting. Put yourself in charge of your business. It's always going to be you, right? So the second thing, you've probably or might have heard about the Cartman drama triangle. This is something I've been studying for years now. It's so universal. It's the victim, rescuer, prosecutor paradigm. Because whenever you have a victim in a room, there's bound to be a rescuer and there's bound to be a prosecutor, right? And those energies, there's no one is better than the other. They all, at the level of frequency, they're at the level of pride, which is below the level of integrity on the Hawkins map of consciousness scale. Okay, so just so you know, the rescuers, the people who are like, oh, let me help, they're not necessarily always good, right? They're not necessarily always a positive force in the room. So I want to talk about the rescuer. So Carolyn Misto talks about the caregiver archetype, right? That's the people who are always there to help, who are always there to help you move, help you serve. Those are the firefighters, and they're just, the social workers, they just can't help themselves. They're big hearts, they're always helping. This is not it. This is the dark side of the caregiver. The caregiver who's coming from a pure heart is a different thing, right? The rescuer is a different motivation for the help. It's not coming from my pure heart and I want to be helpful and supportive. This is coming from, I want to feel better about myself because I feel not good enough and unworthy unless I go rescue some victims here, right? So the rescuer comes in a room and she says, you're a poor victim, let me help. It spots the victims in the room. Now, the problem with the rescuer is that it actually weakens. She actually weakens others. Think about a time where you were kind of the princess, maybe in a relationship, and somebody came to your rescue and they were rescuing you for so long it actually weakened you. You actually didn't step into your power as a result. So many times, it happened to me in my marriage. I married a rescuer and I just became really comfortable with his rescue every day for 7 years. And I was failing in my business because I wasn't stepping fully into my power, right? Because I had him to rescue me. So the rescuers, we have to be super conscious of it. Quite honestly, I don't have that archetype because, and I share this with my clients, it's just not an archetype that I carry. I don't carry the caregiver or the rescuer, right? I'm not like, it's just not my thing. It's not a code that I carry, so to speak, but I carry different codes for sure. But the rescuer I see with a lot of the big-hearted people and the coaches and the healers out there. And this is kind of the dark shadow side of that. So one has to be super, super cautious of this. And when you see yourself rescuing the victims a little bit too much, I'm not talking about compassion. I'm talking about like when you go overboard and the victim just keeps being a victim. And you'll see this with some of your clients, perhaps. Actually, I just got an email from a message DM from one of our graduate clients from our mastermind who said to me, literally, Eva, I cannot believe I'm burning out again. I went back to rescuing everybody and I just need to up-level my ideal client. I just need to get clients who are not victims. And I said to her, it's not about your client. You might have clients that are perfectly empowered in every area of their life. They are totally the powerhouse. They're the, whatever, they might be the super women, they're super powerful, but it is the rescuer in you that will pull out, oh my God, finally, I found the coach who's going to save me, I finally find somebody that I can complain on and 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 go about my story after story after story after story about how my ex mistreated me, It's like we all know the people that just allow us to go on and on and on and on and on and stay in the place of victim, right? So we need to be super, super cautious of the rescuer if there's victims around so that we pull out of that, because whenever we play the rescuer, we create victims around us, right? And so if you want to be an effective coach, an effective leader, you need to step out of that. And you need to empower others. And that is not to say you don't listen to them. I've seen people, I train them not to be a rescuer and then they go withdraw completely and stop caring about people. Don't do that. Like care about people, but withdraw, take a step back and say, how can I really empower this person? How can I ask the question that are not going to save them, that are going to help them see who they have become as a victim so they can step into their next level? Make sense? So that's the rescuer. Martyr. Martyr is another dark side, sort of comes sometimes out of the caregiver, sometimes from another place. So the martyrs in the room. I used to actually play this. I used to own restaurants. And the first restaurant that I owned, I worked for 18 hours a day for the first 2 years. Why? Because I decided to be the hardest working woman in the room. I decided that I was going to work 3 times as hard as my employees So they had nothing to complain about. I was superior to them because I sacrificed so much. I was martyring for the restaurant. I would never take a day off. And guess what? Same thing. I created a bunch of victims. And this is sort of like what this does. It keeps you in like, wow, it's just so toxic. It puts us in a place where we're just going to be resentful and we're going to be pissed off and we're just it's going to cost us. It's going to cost us our freedom. It's going to cost us growing our company when we do that, when we martyr, when we sacrifice ourselves. It's the opposite of leadership. The leadership gathers the people together. Hey, how can we accomplish this mission together, right? So the martyr, it's like, for me, it was quite frankly out of fear because I could not handle people around me complaining. I could not handle the guilt of making them work hard, let alone harder than me, And I was working with a bunch of 20-year-olds and it was so funny. Like they literally could not handle 20 or 30 hours a week while I was working like 80. And it's a problem, at that time I used to have a ton of stamina. Like I could literally I was just like an Energizer bunny and I could go and go and go and go, which is not the case anymore these days. But it just kept me in this trap of martyring. So notice while you do this in your business or maybe at home, where you're the one doing all the chores, when you're all the one sacrificing, and then you're secretly resentful, right? So martyring, by the way, calibrates at 180 on Hawkins' map of consciousness. So it's even below the rescuer here, right? It's as well. It's like it's the level of pride. It's not going to move your business forward when you do that. So we covered the victim, the rescuer, the martyr. Let's do one more. Let's talk about the prosecutor. How are you guys doing, by the way? Leave me some comments and some notes if you're still listening to this. If you're watching the replay, which ones are you recognizing yourself in? Is it the martyrs, the rescuers, the victim, or all three of them? What areas of your life? I'd love to know. I'd love to hear. The prosecutor is the last one. The prosecutor has, that's my personal signature go-to that I've been battling for years and years and years. And finally, with the emotional release work, it starts coming apart. But the prosecutor it's sort of like, I'll share with you a scenario. When I used to own the restaurant, every morning I would walk into the restaurant, I would open the door, and I would be pissed off as I was entering the restaurant. I would be annoyed, waiting to happen, because it's like, oh my God, how many times do I have to tell them to sweep the floor, clean the bathrooms, just annoyed, waiting to happen, And I was so justified in my annoyance. Yesterday I noticed this in the morning. We had a team meeting at 8:30, and I was already annoyed waiting to happen because so-and-so was going to be late for the meeting, You just kind of recognize that within you, like, and who is creating this, right? The prosecutor is actually creating so reality. So now you can be justified about it, right? Because the business is going to bring you back the thoughts and the energy you put in, right? So it's like the indignation, it's the annoyance waiting to happen. And then we just kind of become super annoyed about the victims. Like, why is the victim so weak? Why can't you just step up to the plate and do their thing? Why are they so disempowered, right? And then the rescuer comes in. It's like, oh, you poor victim. Oh, you bad prosecutor, right? It's just it's playing the triangle, and it's hilarious that way. So as a recovering prosecutor, we need to recognize whichever role we play. And we need to consciously step out of that when we're in that situation and where we play that role in our business or in our family, right? You usually have maybe sometimes two spouses, one playing the rescuer, one playing the prosecutor, whatever. And then they tend to switch roles in the middle of an argument. The prosecutor becomes victimized about being the prosecutor. Why do I always have to prosecute you? And what we have to do is recognize that energy. But it is so strong. It is so strong. Sometimes it takes a prayer in the moment when you're in it and you're just making somebody wrong and you're in that and you just cannot, you're so justified because all the evidence is pointing to that people are betraying you, people are doing this and that or the other, they're not doing their job, they're not, and so on and so forth, right? It just sometimes takes a prayer because it's so juicy, you're just so in it to be able to detach from it, prayer and intention. And then through the emotional release work, we start breaking down, because there's layers to it. There's layers. I did a lot of research with a former partner years ago, a lot of research into what the layers are of the prosecutor, victim, or the rescuer, the martyr, or there's other archetypes. We looked at like 13 of them, and since then I've looked at so many others. But you have to understand the whole picture, what is underneath, because there is trauma, there is sadness, there is self-pity, there is fear, there is shame, there is guilt. There's all these layers that have to come to healing. And here's where business and this deep healings, this spiritual work, this is what spiritual work is, right? It's not pouring a bunch of essential oils on yourself and having nice card decks. That's fun. That's great, right? But this deep spiritual work is noticing and finding within us that which keeps us in mental jail, and dissolving it while running our business, because it's always the trigger that's going to show you, ooh, I'm playing the victim. Ooh, I'm not empowered here. Ooh, I'm saving somebody. I'm saving one of our clients. Ooh, I'm making somebody wrong, right? And then you start dissolving it. You start feeling into it, dissolving it, and then you start freeing yourself of these things so that you can lead authentically, right? And you're going to be leading from a different frequency. These things are pulling you below the level of integrity. Every time you're in a victim, you're not producing anything in your business. You're anti-manifesting, right? You're in a force field. It means you're forcing things happen, and you're working really hard, and you have to work really hard to get anywhere. Versus when you flip out of that, you free yourself of it, and you go back above into the magical field of higher frequencies, higher levels of consciousness, and you step into that and you start manifesting. You're in a field of power, right? Power versus force, Hawkins, right? Book. If anybody's read it, leave me a comment. It's like one of those books that you have to understand. You have to understand the levels of consciousness. You have to understand where you operate, because it has everything to do with your result of your business. You have to be operating at the level of power. Right? That doesn't mean you won't go into the levels of force, the prosecutor, the victim, the martyr, the superwoman, the bother, the seeker, the anxious, the copycat, the whatever, like all those different things. Doesn't mean that you won't go there. You go there to heal that, right? And we're all human. We all will go there, at least once a day. Many of us, many times a day, right? But you need to start dissolving them so more and more time is spent at the levels of power and truly operating your business and starting to operate your business from a place of love, right? To where it really becomes, because I care about people so much. I got this freedom for myself. I want this freedom from them too. I want this healing for them. I care so much. I cannot not do it, right? I cannot stop myself. I literally this is my mission. This is my gift to the world. This is my destiny. I can't stop, right? So anyway, this is I'm a little passionate about the subject, but this is it, So tonight on the webinar, we're going to discuss how to actually build your business and bring these two pieces together, right? Because this is what I do. This is what we are doing in Visionary Circle. We have a brilliant, amazing program, new program launching in next week in 9 days is our first class, and it's at founder member pricing right now. So if you guys are interested in that, it's like a third of actually a fifth of the price of our high level mastermind, third of the program, third of the price of our regular pricing for our founding members. But what we're bringing there together is these two pieces, right? The strategies for a business that will take you where they need to take you, and building these six superpowers, that you need to develop. A part of the building them is letting go of all this stuff. And I just named like 3 archetypes. There's about 20. And there is a lot of other emotional attachments that you need to surrender that are having a hold on your mind and your heart right now. So if you want to talk to us about how we work together, make sure you reach out to Mikey. If you guys probably, some of you guys got a welcome message from him, or you got tagged. He's in our group. He's amazing. He's just really powerful healer, really great human being. And he's helping with the enrollment into the program, as well as some work with our clients. So you guys can connect with him and or book an info session. And we would love to just tell you about what that is and how does that work and pricing and all that stuff. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys got something out of that and something out of this. And I will see hopefully some of you guys tonight on the webinar. We're actually going to do some emotional release together. We're actually going to do some of the dissolving work. I'm going to guide you through a 5-minute exercise to dissolve this. Joey, I have no idea who YM is. So I have no idea. You have to let me know who that is. And, some of these archetypes, like I said, they come from the Karpman drama triangle. So that's probably they're getting them from. The Karpman drama triangle has been around for decades. So that's, where some of these original ideas were developed, which I mentioned earlier. Oh, yo mama. Yo mama. Okay, cool. Anyway. All right, guys. Love y'all. See you later. And much respect, much love, and see you tonight.